Ladies, let me tell you something real quick. A good man already knows the kind of woman he wants in his life. He might not have the exact picture, but trust me, he knows the feeling. And when you walk into a man's world, your value is not just about how you look or what you wear. Your value is about how you carry yourself, how you respect yourself, and how you make him respect you. But let me be honest, there are a few things that kill your value in front of a man instantly. And if you want a real relationship, you've got to hear this truth. Needing validation for everything is one of the quickest ways to lose your value in front of a man because it shows him that you don't trust your own judgment. When you constantly look to him for approval, whether it's about what you wear, what you say, or even the decisions you make in your own life, you communicate that his opinion matters more than your own. At first, a man might find it flattering that you care so much about what he thinks, but over time, it starts to feel like pressure, like you can't breathe unless he tells you it's okay. That kind of energy weighs heavy in a relationship because it means he's not just your partner, he's also become your source of identity, and no man truly wants to carry that load forever. Men respect women who come into the relationship already knowing who they are, not women who expect them to hand out approval slips for every action. When you seek validation for everything, you start shaping yourself into what you think he wants instead of showing him who you really are. You might change the way you dress because you're worried he won't like your style, or you might hide your real opinions because you're scared he won't agree. Over time, you stop being yourself and start being a watered-down version of what you think he wants. But the problem is that eventually he'll see through it. The attraction he felt for your authenticity starts to fade because the woman he connected with in the beginning disappears behind layers of doubt and people-pleasing. A man doesn't want to fall in love with a copy of his own preferences. He wants to fall in love with a woman who owns her individuality. The need for validation also creates an imbalance of power. When you put him on that pedestal, you start handing him authority over your self-worth, and the dynamic shifts from equal partnership to one-sided control. Even if he's a good man, he might subconsciously begin to see you as dependent instead of strong, and once that perception sets in, it's hard to shake. You'll notice it in small ways, like him making decisions without asking you or brushing off your opinions because he feels you don't really believe in them anyway. The respect that should be mutual slowly erodes because you didn't stand firm in your own confidence. This behavior also drains the excitement out of the relationship. Part of what keeps a man interested is a woman's mystery, her spark, the way she brings something fresh and unexpected to the table. But when you're always asking if it's okay, always double checking with him before you move, you take away the very quality that made him curious in the first place. Instead of being unpredictable and vibrant, you become predictable and dependent, and that kills attraction over time. A man admires a woman who can say, "This is who I am and this is how I do things," because it tells him she'll stand strong whether he's beside her or not. Accepting disrespect is one of the most damaging things a woman can do in a relationship because the moment you allow it, you teach a man exactly how to treat you. Disrespect doesn't always come in the form of loud arguments or obvious insults. Sometimes it shows up quietly. It can be in the way he dismisses your feelings when you express them, the way he ignores your boundaries, or even the way he takes your presence for granted. When you stay silent in those moments, when you let it slide because you don't want to start a fight or you're afraid he'll leave, you're silently telling him, "This is okay with me." What you permit, you promote, and once you set that standard, he will continue to follow it. Many women make the mistake of thinking that being patient with disrespect will eventually make a man realize her worth, but the truth is, it usually has the opposite effect. Instead of waking him up to how valuable you are, it signals to him that he doesn't have to change because you'll accept whatever he gives. Men don't suddenly rise to the occasion when they're allowed to mistreat someone. They rise when they see that poor behavior has consequences. If a man sees that you are still available, still giving your time, your energy, your love, even after he has spoken to you harshly or disregarded your boundaries, he doesn't learn to respect you more. He learns that disrespect has no price. Disrespect chips away at more than just the relationship. It eats away at your self-esteem. Every time you excuse it, you send yourself a message that your feelings aren't important, that your needs don't matter, that you're not worthy of being treated better. Slowly, you begin to internalize his behavior and question yourself instead of questioning the way you're being treated. You might start thinking, maybe I'm overreacting, or maybe this is normal, when deep down you know it doesn't feel right. This internal battle leaves you drained, anxious, and less confident in your own worth. Another danger in accepting disrespect is that it sets the tone for future behavior. Relationships build patterns, and the habits you accept in the beginning become the norms later on. If a man learns early that he can raise his voice at you, dismiss your opinions, flirt with other women in front of you, or fail to keep his word without consequence, those habits won't disappear. They'll grow. What starts off as small dismissals can escalate into consistent disregard. And by the time you realize how deep it's gotten, you're already stuck in a cycle that's hard to break. A man will always respect the boundaries you enforce more than the disrespect you excuse. When you don't accept disrespect, you create an atmosphere where he understands that being with you requires effort, accountability, and consideration. It forces him to choose whether he's going to rise to the level of respect you deserve or step aside because he can't meet that standard. Competing with other women is one of the fastest ways to lower your value in front of a man because it shows him that you don't see your own uniqueness. The moment you start comparing yourself to every woman he looks at, every woman on social media, or every woman in his past, you put yourself in a race that doesn't even exist. A man may notice other women, but if he is with you, it's because something about you already stood out to him. The problem comes when you start acting like you have to prove that you're better than everyone else. That constant comparison shifts the focus away from who you truly are and places it on women who were never supposed to be your competition in the first place. When you compete with other women, you're telling him without words that you don't believe you are enough as you are. Insecurity starts to replace confidence, and instead of celebrating your strengths, you begin highlighting what you think you lack. Men pick up on that energy very quickly. They might not say it out loud, but they can feel when a woman is unsure of herself, when she feels threatened by others, and when she's desperate to outshine someone else. That energy doesn't come across as attractive, it comes across as needy, and neediness can kill respect faster than anything else. A woman who knows her worth doesn't have to step into another woman's lane because she understands that her lane is already powerful enough. Men admire confidence, and confidence doesn't come from proving you're the prettiest, the smartest, or the most successful in the room. Confidence comes from showing that you know what you bring to the table and you're not afraid to own it. When you get caught up in competing with other women, you rob yourself of that power, and instead of standing tall in your individuality, you blend into the crowd of comparison. Competition also creates unnecessary tension in the relationship. If you're always questioning who he's texting, analyzing every woman he interacts with, or comparing yourself to his exes, the relationship turns into a battlefield instead of a safe space. He feels like he's on trial all the time, and you feel like you're never good enough, which creates a cycle of mistrust. That cycle doesn't just damage how he sees you, it damages how you see yourself. You start to measure your worth based on whether you're winning over other women instead of recognizing that your value was never supposed to be in competition with theirs. The truth is, no man falls in love with a woman because she beat out every other woman in his life. He falls in love because she stood out in her own right. Competing with other women only takes away from your light, while embracing your individuality amplifies it. A man is drawn to the woman who shows him that she doesn't need to prove herself to anyone else, because that kind of confidence is magnetic and unforgettable. Not having standards is one of the clearest ways to lower your value in front of a man, because it tells him you will accept anything he offers, no matter how little effort it requires. Standards are not about being demanding or difficult. They are about showing that you know what you deserve and that you are unwilling to compromise your self-respect for temporary attention. When a woman has no standards, she allows a man to lead the relationship however he wants without question. And that often leads to being taken for granted. Men respect boundaries, even if they don't admit it out loud, because boundaries create structure, they create accountability, and they separate a casual fling from a serious commitment. Without standards, there is no difference between the two. When you don't have standards, you end up settling for potential instead of reality. You might tell yourself he'll change, or he just needs time, or at least he's trying, even when his actions are showing you something completely different. This happens because you haven't set a clear line between what is acceptable and what is not. A man who knows he can consistently give you the bare minimum without consequence will continue to do so, because why would he change if he doesn't have to? Your standards are the silent teacher in the relationship. They don't just guide him, they guide you, reminding you of the value you place on yourself and keeping you from lowering the bar to make someone else comfortable. Another problem with not having standards is that it makes you appear indecisive about your own worth. Men are naturally observant when it comes to relationships, and they notice whether you stand firm on what you say or whether you bend the rules every time feelings get involved. If you say you want a man who is honest but you overlook his lies, if you say you want a man who prioritizes you or you accept being treated like an afterthought, your words lose meaning. That inconsistency tells him your standards are negotiable. And once a man realizes that, he knows he can push past any boundary without losing you. This doesn't increase his respect for you, it decreases it, because respect is built on consistency and follow through. Having no standards also strips away your individuality in the relationship. Instead of bringing in your own expectations and creating a partnership based on mutual values, you simply absorb whatever energy he brings. If he's serious, you're serious. If he's casual, you're casual. If he's inconsistent, you adjust to his inconsistency. Over time, this behavior erases your voice and leaves you blending into his lifestyle rather than standing as an equal partner. Men don't admire women who mirror them. They admire women who challenge them, who bring something different to the table, and who raise the level of the relationship through what they will and won't allow. Standards are the invisible force that communicates, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I know what I deserve. Without them, you end up giving away your value before he ever has the chance to see it. Ignoring your own goals and dreams is one of the most common mistakes that lowers your value in front of a man, because it shows him that you've made him the center of your world while abandoning the very things that make you who you are. At first, a man might enjoy the attention and feel flattered that you're so invested in him, but over time, he begins to notice that you don't have anything outside of the relationship driving you. Men respect women who have vision, who have passions, who are chasing something bigger than just being someone's partner. When you let go of your ambitions, you're not only cutting yourself short, you're also showing him that you don't value your own purpose enough to keep it alive. When you stop focusing on your goals, you unknowingly shift all your energy onto him, and that can make the relationship feel heavy. A man doesn't want to carry the responsibility of being your only source of joy or motivation. He might care deeply about you, but if everything in your life revolves around him, the pressure becomes overwhelming. Instead of being drawn to you, he may start pulling away because he doesn't feel like there's balance. A woman who is passionate about her own dreams brings energy, excitement, and drive into the relationship, and that's attractive. A woman who abandons those dreams for him, however, slowly loses that spark, and with it, the respect he once had for her. Pursuing your goals also communicates independence. It tells a man that you can stand strong with or without him, and that the relationship is a choice, not a necessity. Men find it compelling when a woman has her own vision because it means she's not clinging to him for identity. When you ignore your goals, you make him your sole focus, and that dependency lowers your value. Instead of seeing you as an equal, he starts to see you as someone who needs him to define her feet. That kind of dynamic doesn't inspire respect. It breeds complacency, and it sets the stage for imbalance in the relationship. There's also another layer to this. When you neglect your goals, resentment starts to build within yourself. You might not notice it right away, but over time you begin to feel unfulfilled, restless, and even frustrated with him because you gave up your passions for the relationship. That frustration can create unnecessary conflict, and he might not even understand where it's coming from. What's really happening is that you're mourning the parts of yourself you abandoned. A man can sense when a woman is no longer fulfilled, and instead of feeling inspired by her presence, he feels drained by her unhappiness. A woman who continues to chase her dreams is magnetic because she brings growth into the relationship. She has stories to tell, achievements to share, and lessons she learns along the way that keep the connection vibrant. When you ignore your goals, you take away that vibrancy and leave the relationship stuck in routine. Men admire women who remind them of their own drive by pursuing theirs. And when you stop pursuing yours, you unintentionally communicate that your entire world begins and ends with him. Being available 24/7 with no boundaries is another behavior that lowers your value in front of a man because it tells him your time, your energy, and your attention are not precious. When you drop everything the moment he calls, when you cancel your plans just because he suddenly wants to see you, or when you answer every message immediately, no matter what you're doing, you show him that your life revolves around him. At first, he might enjoy the convenience of having your attention on demand, but over time, he begins to take it for granted. Availability without limits can quickly turn into predictability, and predictability often dulls attraction. Men are drawn to women who have their own schedules, their own responsibilities, and their own priorities because it communicates that she values herself. When you're too available, you remove the element of mystery. Part of what keeps a man interested is not knowing every single thing about you at every moment. If he knows that no matter what time of day it is, you'll pick up, you'll show up, or you'll change your routine for him, then there's no space left for him to wonder about you or to put in effort to reach you. Men enjoy the chase, and when the chase is gone, when everything is handed to them without effort, the appreciation disappears too. Being accessible is not the problem. It's being overly accessible that tells him your time holds no weight and therefore requires no respect. Boundaries are not walls. They are signs of self-respect. Oversharing too soon is one of those things that can instantly lower your value in front of a man because it removes the natural process of discovery that makes relationships exciting. When you meet someone new, part of the attraction is slowly getting to know each other, peeling back the layers one at a time, and allowing mystery to build. But when you rush into unloading your entire life story, your past relationships, your traumas, your family drama, and even your deepest insecurities within the first few conversations, you don't leave room for curiosity. What could have been a gradual bond turns into an overwhelming download of information, and instead of making him feel closer, it often makes him feel pressured or even distant. A man doesn't need to know everything about you at once, and when you overshare too quickly, it can come across as if you're trying to force intimacy. Real intimacy is built through time, through shared experiences, and through trust that grows naturally. When you reveal too much too soon, it often signals to him that you are desperate for connection or that you're trying to rush the relationship into something serious before it has had the chance to develop. This rush not only makes him uncomfortable, but it can also make him question whether you've done the same with others, which reduces the uniqueness of the bond he thought he was building with you. Oversharing can also create unnecessary judgment early on. Everyone has a past, everyone has flaws, and everyone has struggles. But when you put everything out on the table before a foundation is built, you risk having him see you through the lens of those weaknesses instead of through the strengths he could have discovered first. For example, if you share too much about a bad breakup, he might think you're still hung up on your ex. If you share every insecurity about your body, your care, or your choices, he might start to view you as less confident, even if you're not. The timing of what you share matters just as much as what you share, and when that timing is off, it can unintentionally lower the respect he has for you. Another problem with oversharing is that it can flip the dynamic of the relationship. Instead of building a connection through mutual exchange, it can turn into one-sided emotional dumping where he becomes more of a therapist than a partner. That type of dynamic can make him pull away because he doesn't feel like he earned the right to that level of access to your inner world. Men value what they work for, and when all the doors to your heart and mind swing open immediately, it takes away the sense of effort and privilege that keeps him engaged. Keeping parts of yourself private in the early stages isn't about being secretive or dishonest. It's about pacing. It's about understanding that your life, your experiences, and your inner world are valuable, and not everyone deserves instant access to them. Oversharing robs the relationship of that gradual build, and instead of creating closeness, it can unintentionally create distance because he feels he has nothing left to learn about you. Settling for potential instead of reality is one of the most common ways women lower their value in front of a man because it shows they're more invested in who he could be than in who he actually is. It's easy to get caught up in what a man says he wants to do, the dreams he talks about, or the promises he makes for the future, and ignore the fact that his actions in the present don't match those words. When you fall in love with potential, you end up excusing behavior that doesn't align with your standards because you believe he'll eventually grow into the man you imagine. The problem is that not every man fulfills that potential, and while you're waiting on him to become who he says he wants to be, you're giving your time, energy, and commitment to someone who hasn't actually earned it yet. When you settle for potential, you become more of a coach than a partner. You start encouraging him, pushing him, reminding him, and even making sacrifices to help him become that better version of himself. While there's nothing wrong with supporting someone you care about, it becomes damaging when you're doing all the work while he continues to stay the same. Over time, this role reversal can make him respect you less because instead of seeing you as his equal, he starts to view you as the one who tolerates his lack of effort. Men don't value what comes too easily, and if you constantly accept excuses instead of actions, he learns that you'll stick around whether he changes or not. Believing in potential also keeps you stuck in a cycle of hope rather than reality. You might find yourself saying things like, "He just needs more time," or "I know he'll come around," even though months or years have passed with little to no progress. This mindset stops you from holding him accountable because you're more focused on who he could become than on who he's showing you he is right now. And it also blinds you to red flags because instead of addressing the problems in front of you, you convince yourself that they'll disappear once he reaches his potential. But reality always wins, and eventually you're left with the truth that he may never change, and you've wasted valuable time waiting for someone who had no intention of evolving. Another issue with settling for potential is that it shifts the balance of the relationship. A man respects a woman who holds him accountable, who looks at what he actually delivers, and who makes decisions based on evidence instead of empty promises. When you ignore reality, you're teaching him that words are enough to keep you and that actions aren't required. That kind of dynamic lowers your value because it shows him you're willing to accept less than you deserve. Standards should be based on what a man does consistently, not on what he says he might do someday. And when you choose potential over reality, you send the message that promises are enough to secure your presence. Letting insecurity run the relationship is one of the most damaging behaviors because it turns love into a constant test instead of a connection. Insecurity shows up in different ways, always needing reassurance that he loves you, questioning where he is or who he's with, overthinking his every move, or assuming the worst anytime he doesn't respond exactly how you expected. When you let insecurity take control, you project your fears onto him, and instead of enjoying the relationship for what it is, you're constantly searching for proof that something is wrong. This makes him feel like he's on trial even when he hasn't done anything, and that pressure over time can push him away. Insecurity lowers your value in front of a man because it communicates that you don't trust yourself, and if you don't trust yourself, it becomes harder for him to trust you. Confidence is magnetic because it shows that you believe in your own worth, but insecurity does the opposite. It makes you doubt his words, question his intentions, and second-guess his actions, which creates an environment of suspicion instead of peace. A man might try to reassure you at first, but if it turns into a cycle where nothing he says or does is enough, eventually he'll grow tired of constantly having to prove himself. Respect in a relationship is tied to trust, and insecurity erodes both. When insecurity is running things, you start to change your behavior in ways that don't align with your true self. You might avoid speaking your mind because you're afraid of pushing him away, or you might overcompensate by trying too hard to keep him interested, even when it costs you your dignity. You may check his phone, monitor his social media, or compare yourself to every woman he interacts with, believing that you're in competition for his attention. Those actions not only drain your energy, but also send him the mess. Age that you don't feel secure in your own value. Men notice when a woman carries herself with quiet confidence versus when she's constantly operating out of fear, and it's the difference between being respected and being pitied. Another problem with insecurity is that it doesn't just affect how he sees you, it affects how you see yourself. When you allow fear and doubt to take over, you stop recognizing your own strengths, your beauty, your accomplishments, and the qualities that make you unique. You start to measure your worth through his reactions instead of your own identity. That dependency on his approval creates an unhealthy dynamic where his mood, his actions, and his choices dictate how you feel about yourself on any given day. Not only does this make the relationship unstable, it also puts your happiness entirely in his hands. A relationship thrives when both people bring confidence and security to the table, but when insecurity dominates, it becomes a constant battle for reassurance. Men are drawn to women who trust themselves enough to trust the relationship, and when insecurity is allowed to lead, it strips away the balance and makes the connection feel more like a burden than a bond. Keynote number 10, the announcement of how it ends, official, immediately sparked a wave of excitement across the entertainment industry as fans of apocalyptic cinema and gripping human drama have been waiting for a fresh take on the end-of-the-world narrative, and this project promises to deliver exactly that. From the moment the official confirmation was released, discussions began flooding across social media platforms, with audiences expressing curiosity about what new elements this film would bring compared to other apocalyptic thrillers of the past. The project is being treated not just as another disaster movie, but as a defining cinematic event that intends to capture the essence of human survival instincts, emotional connections, and the unpredictability of a collapsing society. The announcement alone set off speculation about the storyline, the scale of destruction the film would portray, and the emotional stakes the characters would face. What particularly made the announcement more thrilling was the creative team involved, as the filmmakers emphasized their vision of balancing large-scale cinematic spectacle with deeply personal storytelling, ensuring that audiences not only witness the chaos of a world falling apart, but also connect to the intimate struggles of people trying to survive within it. This combination of scale and humanity has become the central hook of the film's marketing since the announcement. Industry insiders have also paid close attention to the timing of the reveal, as the announcement strategically aligned with a growing audience appetite for stories that reflect both uncertainty and resilience, themes that have been deeply relatable in recent years. The project is being positioned as more than just a film. It is being marketed as an experience that will make viewers think about their own lives and choices when confronted with overwhelming odds. Early promotional material tied to the announcement highlighted breathtaking visuals of destroyed landscapes, eerie silences in once bustling cities, and characters standing at the crossroads of despair and determination, sparking an emotional reaction even before the full trailer was released. The announcement further cemented the movie as a potential blockbuster by revealing its ambitious release plan, suggesting that the filmmakers are confident in both its critical and commercial appeal. Reports suggested that distributors and streaming platforms immediately showed interest in securing rights, given the strong buzz generated by the reveal. The announcement also amplified conversations about the film's cast, as audiences immediately began speculating who would be the driving force behind such a high-stakes survival drama. The decision to reveal some of the lead actors alongside the official announcement added fuel to the excitement, as the cast chosen reflects a balance of star power and raw talent, ensuring both marketability and emotional depth. With the announcement, the creators also made it clear that this project is not a mere continuation of familiar tropes, but an innovative reimagining of how apocalyptic storytelling can be presented on the big screen, emphasizing unpredictability, layered characters, and philosophical undertones about humanity's fragility. The boldness of the announcement left no doubt that this film intends to leave a long-lasting mark, not only as an entertaining piece of cinema, but as a cultural conversation starter about survival, morality, and the value of human connection when everything else is stripped away